Hey everybody, welcome to Divine Thursday for February 11th, 2021. I'm your host, DM Gallibond. Alright, today on Divine Thursday, we're going to be taking a look at a spell that sounds like it's new, but it's actually been around since the beginning of D&D, just not in exactly this particular form. This is the spell Inflict Wounds. This is now a spell where divine casters can cause harm to other players. And as we'll see, like I said, this is an ability that these folks have had ever since the beginning of the game. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at how this works. Alright, as we go into the very first original rules of D&D, we'll see that from the very first level, clerics have always had cure light wounds or cure wounds, as the case is. But you'll notice here it has a little asterisk, and all spells marked with an asterisk can be cast in a reversed form. So the spell either heals damage or removes paralysis. Used to heal, it cures 1d6 plus 1 points of damage. And it cannot be used to heal damage if it's used to cure paralysis. Blah. It can only have one effect or the other. Now, when it's reversed, this spell is called Cause-like Wounds, and that deals 1d6 plus 1, or 2 to 7 points of damage to a creature that it is touched. Now, there was some interesting things about this spell that we will get at as we look at later editions of the game. If we go to AD&D, first edition, we'll see that we have Cure Light Wounds. Notice it's a school of necromancy. Anything that deals with either adding or taking away health in D&D has always been considered a school of necromancy. It deals with science or with life and death, basically. So now, by laying hands upon a creature, the cleric causes 1 to 8 hit points of wound or other injury damage to the creature's body to be healed. Healing will not affect creatures without corporeal bodies, nor will it cure wounds of creatures not living or those which can be harmed by iron, silver, and or magical weapons. To reverse, cause-like wounds operates in the same manner. If a person is avoiding the touch, a melee combat hit is rolled. And cause-like wounds are 1 to 8 points of damage. All right. Now, okay, so it didn't specify what I was going to say here in AD&D. I think we'll get to it in second edition, but let's see. When casting a spell and laying hands upon a creature, a priest causes 1d8 points of wound or other damage to be creature's body to be healed. Creature cannot affect creatures without corporeal bodies, nor cure wounds of creatures not living or extraplanar origin. Cause light wounds operates in the same manner. Inflicting 1d8 is a creature is avoiding. Okay. Well, maybe I'm remembering this incorrectly. But what I was getting at is I was thinking that at some point they had ruled that if you use Cure Light Wounds on undead, it actually causes damage to undead. And if you use Cause Light Wounds on an undead, it actually heals damage on an undead. That's the thing I was thinking. Maybe that's not correct. Now, there by the time they got to third edition, they had actually gone away from having reversible spells, and some people will say it's like they padded the spell list, but there was a reason they did it. They decided that certain classes and subclasses would get one version of the spell, and other classes and subclasses would get the other version. So it was more advantageous to split them off as separate individual spells and record them separately. So, Inflict Light Wounds was is still a first level clerical spell and still a touch. When laying your hands upon a creature, you channel negative energy um, that deals 1d8 points of damage plus 1 per caster level. Okay, now this is what I'm thinking of. Since undead are powered by negative energy, this spell cures such a creature of a like amount of damage rather than harming it. And I think if we go back to, if we go back up to Cure Light Wounds, okay, so let's go. Okay, come on. If we go back up to Cure Light Wounds, I think we're going to see that with Cure Light Wounds, we actually have. Oh, come on. Detect Evil, Daze Monster, Daze It, Dancing, Cure, Cure Light Wounds. When laying your hand upon a living creature, you channel positive energy that cures when. Since undead are powered by negative energy, this spell deals damage to them instead of curing their wounds. Okay, all right. So that's where I was getting it. I was remembering it, but it was actually third edition. It came. The specific verbiage of this came into existence later in the game than I thought it had. But this is an important thing to think about when you are running a game. You know, you might have an unusual circumstance because D&D, I mean, D&D can be what players want it to be, right? And as long as the DM is on board and the players are on board and you're having fun, then whatever you do is right. But there's this interesting thing here. Let's just say that you had, that your campaign was in some sort of a zombie apocalypse and there was a PC that got turned into an undead. Um, didn't lose their mind, didn't become all evil, but was an undead and was remaining adventuring with the rest of the party. So if that happened and the and the undead sustains damage and the cleric character wants to try to heal the damage, you could have a lot of fun with when the cleric goes to cast Cure Wounds. Oh gosh, I'm really sorry, but you just dealt damage to your party member. Remember, she's undead now. So if you want to heal her, you have to inflict wounds instead of healing wounds. Uh, so that could be kind of a fun thing to do with your party if you want to play D&D that way. Um, or if you're running one of those older games, um, first edition game, original D&D, second edition game, something like that, and somebody says, "Hey, wait a minute. What happens if I do cure wounds on an undead? Will that deal damage to them?" Well, if you go to those original source books, it doesn't say anything. You could, if you know the rules of third edition, say, yeah, and then it's a judgment call for you as a DM. Do you want to make that effect retroactive back to earlier editions of the game? For me, I kind of think, yeah, that makes sense to do. But I'm not you. And your table, your rules. So you go ahead and run that the way that you want to. But it's a nice option to know that eventually they came down and ruled that way. Um, in the rules as written, so it can kind of inform what you want to do, um, and justify. Allows you to justify either way, that whether you want to accept that for other editions of the game, or you just want to say nope, something happened, and starting in the era of third edition, but it didn't work that way before. So completely up to you. Now, Inflict Wounds, 5th edition. Still a first level spell. Touch, verbal, somatic. You make a melee spell attack against a creature you can reach on a hit. The target takes 3d10 necrotic damage. At higher levels, second level or higher, the damage is increased by 1d10 for each slot above first. Now, you'll say, wow, that's really, really, really bad. Because heal or cure wounds, I don't think cure wounds does 3d10 damage, or heals 3d10 hit points. So it's kind of tilted in the. Uh, let's just double check. Cure wounds. Yeah, Cure Wounds only does 1d8 plus your spellcasting modifier, and it goes up by 1d8 for every spell slot above first. But Inflict Wounds deals 3d10 damage, um, and then goes up by 1d10 for every slot above first. So just a little bit of is that imbalanced? Maybe, maybe not. But again, they are two different spells. So probably they're going with a law of averages that more clerics are going to take the cure wounds than the inflict wounds. And since inflict wounds is a little bit rarer, maybe they decided that damage curve ought to be a little higher. I don't know. I didn't write the rules. I just talk about them. So would be interesting to see what their thought process on why they did that, with both of them being first level spells. All right, well that's going to do it for this week's Divine Thursday. Tell me, what do you think? Do you think that would you rule in older editions that the inflict wounds would heal undead, where the cure wounds would damage undead? Let me know in the comments below. Tell me what you think about that. And while you're at it, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video, click the post notification bell so that you can be notified every time new content drops. Go ahead and look in the description. You'll find all of the ways that you can follow me on social media and all of the different places that you can find my live streams 4 days a week. All right, and with that, this concludes our episode of Divine Thursday for this week. Everyone, take care. Have a wonderful week. Talk to you later. Goodbye.